Good day, everyone. For today's refugee-led conversation, I will be your moderator. And here with me, I have three young leaders who are doing amazing jobs at the community level, at the national level, and also at the global level. The first question, Joel, can you tell us more about your engagement in your community with the refugee youth and the refugee community as well? And can you tell us more about your participation at the summit?
Thank you so much. It's great to join you. My name is Joel Mafigi, originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I've been living in Uganda as a forcibly displaced person for the last 16 years. So in 2018, I refused to fail and I co-founded a refugee-led organization called Unleashed Potentials in Motion, where we mainly empower young people in leadership, mindset transformation, business development, and social entrepreneurship. Now, the whole of this package is to enable young people realize the talents that they do have, the skills, and use them to create decent employment opportunities for themselves. For the last 6 years, it's work that I've been mainly focused on with the refugees and other marginalized communities. We work mainly in Akivale, and this year we expanded to other refugee settlements in Uganda, at least 4, Kiakaturu, Rwamwanja, and Kiangwali. And we want to scale to more other places because we have seen the impact of the work that we do. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to this amazing conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. And my name is Monicah Malith. I'm a student at the University of Nairobi, Summit of the Future, whereby I was at the opening of the summit, representing the youth from Africa and refugees to participate in other side events like the localization of the SDGs. Yeah, and then there was a political forum whereby they were talking on representation of youth in political spaces. And what I've been doing with the refugees, I think, has been doing motivation for them, mentorship on how to handle scholarships when you're going for interviews. How do you handle such interviews and all of that through an organization? Okay, like let's say a project called Gender Inclusive Community, where we are running it with few of my friends who are in the university. And simply what we did was to tell our stories and amplify them for other students in high school, in primary school, who might be going through the same problems that we are going through, could see that they are not alone, and also help in career mentorship and all of that. So that's what I do. And now after the summit, I'm trying to meet with the youth and tell them exactly what I was for in New York and what is expected out of them, my presentation, and that's what I'm doing now. Trying to see how best we not only get to discuss issues at the global forum, but how can we bring them back to the communities and among the youth?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Krista Rivas. I am the regional leader of Tertiary Refugee Student Network, TRSN Latin America, and I'm also a student of Architecture and International Relations at UNAM. I dedicated my life to my work to advocate for the rights and opportunities for young refugees. And I'm here because I believe strongly in the power of education and youth empowerment, especially within displaced communities. And as someone who has faced the challenges of displacement myself, my engagement with the refugee youth has been more personal because I'm part of the refugee community too. And I think that gives me a perspective and a personal motivation to drive change, and also organizational, because as leader of TRSN, I focus on advocating for access to education and building pathways for refugee youth to gain the skills they need for self-reliance and leadership. So before the Summit of the Future, I was actively involved in planning youth-led campaigns and dialogues with other young leaders to bring their perspectives to the summit. And I also work to amplify our digital storytelling projects because we are still growing in Latin America. So I tried to bring all their perspectives to the summit. And during the summit, I participated in key sessions where I shared recommendations on how to better integrate refugee youth into decision-making processes. I also shared a little bit of my story as a refugee. And I also was able to connect with stakeholders from various sectors to advocate too for more inclusive policies and funding streams that are accessible for refugee-led organizations.
All right. So coming back to you, Krista, I understand that you engaged in so many events at the Summit of the Future. Yeah, and you met so many stakeholders. So how did you feel about sharing your message with these stakeholders?
Well, sharing my message was empowering. It's not often that refugee youth get a seat at the table, so let alone a platform to speak directly to decision makers, governments, and international organizations and NGOs. So I felt a strong sense of responsibility too, because I had to represent the voices of not just my community, but the refugee youth globally. And the experience was also a reminder of how much more needs to be done. While some stakeholders were receptive and open to our ideas, it was clear that we have to keep pushing for a shift from words to action, actually. And I emphasize that we, refugee youth, are not just beneficiaries but leaders and partners in these processes. I also felt hopeful, to be honest, but also aware that consistent follow-up and continued advocacy are necessary to turn those conversations into actual real change. I still remember something that I heard during these events, and is that we want to make the change. We want to resolve all the obstacles that we are going through. We just need actual support to do that. We are not asking for people to fix those problems. And I think that stuck to me because, I think we need to keep advocating and keep using these spaces to show what we are doing and the kind of support that we need.
Thank you. And going back to you, Monicah.
What I felt so much was now the actualization of representation of refugees and the youth. Because again, when I got the invitation, I was like, how did I get there? How did I get the invitation? And in most of the meetings that I've gone to, they've always been talking about youth representation, refugees representation. And speaking to these stakeholders, my hope was to see that the message from the refugees and from the youth is conveyed to them. Because at times we have a gap and they don't listen to us. But if you have such platforms that brings us together and make us sit and say, look, this is what we are facing. This is what we are facing. And the response I got made me feel good because people are like, what you touched on, we also face the same problem with funding for education, which was my key message, and involvement of youth and refugees, and knowing that the key challenges they face. So I felt like it was important, and there is a realization of why every stakeholder, even the youth inclusive and refugees and young women and girls, being included in all spaces. And literally it was like multilateral kind of approach to what the future that we need. So that's what I felt like. And there was a lot of involvement. There was like, I didn't feel of any less because of the interaction we went to. We were listening to them. They were also listening to us.
I think for me, the feeling was more of an empowering feeling, but also just like my colleague mentioned, a sense of responsibility to air out the many voices of young people who are unable to attend the summit, and of course who are doing amazing work at the grassroots level. So yes, I mean, it was also opportunistic because at the end of the day, I truly believe that for change to happen, it happens really progressively. I mean, I usually call it organic growth, and it begins with securing a seat at the table. And I know, of course, some of the aspects that we mentioned that we aired out at the summit. Some of them might be implemented, others might take a little more time to be implemented, but all in all, for me, it was a sense of responsibility, opportunistic, and also forward-looking for the future, and also a representation for the many voices that are doing amazing things, most especially from the marginalized communities.
Great. Thank you so much. So Joel, I know Monicah said that she's already sharing different messages with the refugee community, and I understand that you are also running a project in Uganda. So then how are you planning to use the knowledge you got from the summit?
That's a very good question. Like I mentioned, it's a sense of responsibility, and the responsibility does not only end at participating at as an individual, because behind the work that we do, there are very many people, many capable people. So one of the actions that I am currently taking is to disseminate the information that I got from the Summit of the Future. And I know right now, for the many refugees, it's not the documents that were signed, the Pact of the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration for Future Generations. Some of these documents are really, really important and pivotal to our future, but most of the refugees are not aware of them. So for me, one of the action steps that I'm taking is to make sure that I unpack the Pact for the Future and the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration for Future Generation to fellow refugees. And I am planning moving forward to organize different workshops just to bring a sense of awareness, but also, for example, Article 4 speaks a lot to the work that we do, and what I look forward to implementing is to make sure that we put Article 4 into action. We do not, have to wait until someone comes and, says that you have to do this and this. I think for us in our way of work is we learn something and then we get hold of it and run with it, we make it happen. So this is what we are currently.
To you, Monicah. Monicah, I know you participated in different ways in Summit of the Future, and then I know you also had time to read a few documents on the Pact of the Future. So do you have any feedback? Yeah, maybe positive or maybe negative, or even a way of improvement as well?
I wouldn't say much of how the Pact for the Future are, but the issue is, even when I was doing my interview, the Kiswahili interview, what I realized was the fact that at times we have been sitting down, since the time immemorial, people have been sitting down to do very good documentation, very good policies, and very clear objectives of what they want to do. But then usually they don't achieve it. So I'm very much concerned of, after 2 years, the Pact for the Future, what will they have achieved? I'm not only focused on the content, but then how good or bad it is, but then how are we going to achieve whatever is in it? And I'm now taking my time to understand, because I think the time I was reading the Pact for the Future, I think it was only under the pressure of understanding what the summit is and what it's going to be like so for my own presentation. But now I'm taking some time off to really understand. But my concern with it is, after the promise and all those good things, what is the outcome of the Pact for the Future? The implementation part of it is what I'm very much concerned. It's not really stated out of how the implementation will be done. So that's what I think is my concern, and I've been thinking about it so much.
Yep. The question, just after participating at the Summit of the Future, reading the document about the Pact of the Future, so do you have any feedback, and how do you plan to use it maybe in your community?
Well, after the summit, I plan to take the insights and ideas discussed and translate them into concrete actions within my community and my network. I want to collaborate with other refugee youth organizations to strengthen advocacy, build partnership, and create opportunities for refugee youth to have more significant voices in decision-making processes. And I'm also aim to hold stakeholders accountable for the commitments they made to ensure that the summit discussions are led to a real change.
All right. Thank you. So now going back to Joel, what's your key message to the refugee youth and the refugee community after taking part at the Summit of the Future?
One is that refugees, but also in general young people, we do have a lot to work, because like I mentioned, the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration for Future Generation are amazing documents. But to get, and of course, amazing documents that were signed by member states in agreement to implement them. But I am a great believer in the action of young people. I truly believe that if we are to have things happen sustainably, then young people must be at the forefront. Of course, without forgetting the experience and the knowledge of our elders, but knowing that yes, we have the documents, but to get things done, we must put them to work. So I think for me, that's one of the key message, and not really to wait, because the more we wait, the more we will come after 2 years, and then after the monitoring and evaluation, we realize that we have missed the targets, we have missed on some of the articles that are mentioned. But if we really get to work, then I truly believe that we'll have the change that we want, and we will create the future that we do want. Of course, that future should be better. And so for me, that is my belief, but that's also a message to refugees and also young people. Of course, also I send an encouraging message to refugees, of course, those who have been displaced. Of course, getting displaced comes with a lot of traumas, a lot of depression, and a lot of difficulties. But also, these are the difficulties that strengthen us, that make us resilient. We also have, we have a part to carry to this world, whether from the countries where we have been hosted. We have, I call it the responsibility to as well, give back in a little way that we can to make life better.
Well, my message is one of, first of all, hope and determination. Taking part of the summit reaffirmed that our voices actually matter, and that change is possible when we are united and persistent in our advocacy. But I just noticed too that this is just the beginning. We need to keep organizing, keep educating ourselves, and keep pushing for our rights. I want all refugee youth to know that they are capable of leading and shaping their futures. We don't have to wait for others to define our destinies, and we are already doing that through our actions, our initiatives, and our resilience. I also urge us to build stronger alliances across the borders, because we are all facing similar challenges actually, and by working together we can create a stronger and more powerful movement that drives the change we need. And I also want to share the message that we need to continue fostering resilience, but also self-reliance. We already shown to the world that we can overcome adversity, but now is the time to invest in our own futures, whether it's learning new skills, starting projects, or forming organizations. We have the power to create the change we want to see. The summit reminded me that while we need external support, our strength lies in our ability to take the initiative and be proactive in shaping our destinies. And that will be my message.
My message to the refugees and young refugees and youth out there is that we have spoken, we have been represented. So what I need now is taking initiative and taking responsibility for all the problems and trying to drive change. Not only when you get the finances, how much am I getting or which is the external support. We also have to not to portray ourselves as vulnerable. We need to also show that resilience, like Krista was saying. We have to have hope, and you have to know that it's a high time that we start solving problems for our own communities, for our own countries that we come from. We have to take responsibility for the generation that is coming after us to see that there is change. We also have to start acting instead of being every day just sitting and lamenting about our problems every day.
Yeah, today let's embrace our collective vision and committed to taking actionable steps forward, ensuring that these discussions lead to meaningful progress and impactful outcomes. I would like to thank you, our speakers, for taking the time to share their knowledge and giving real life examples. Thank you.